Now this is going to be exciting for me. Okay, the next presenter is Dr. Miro, and he is going to be talking to us about somebody you may have heard of who has done some somewhat interesting things. Um, Dr. Miro?
Much more so recently, I think. Yeah, because he's become much more famous in the last few months, I think.
So,
Right. So my name is Firas Miro. I'm a doctor working in Sheffield in the UK. First of all, thank you very much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be part of this. And my wife told me that she basically works with teaching children coding and robotics. And she wanted me to try and do something on my inspiration, Elon Musk, and how his life journey may be an inspiration to the children of today in terms of trying to follow in his footsteps, even though I think it will be very difficult to achieve what he's achieved almost single-handedly to begin with. I just want to talk a little bit about how he started and how his life story could be a lesson to the children of today. So Elon Musk is actually South African. He was born in Pretoria in 1971. As with most intelligent children, he was a bit of a nerd in his younger years. He, for example, read the whole of Encyclopedia Britannica by age about 9. And because of that, he was bullied quite severely at times when he was at school, to the extent that he needed to take martial arts to try and defend himself. But a relatively early growth spurt helped with his problems. By the way, I want this to be as interactive as possible. I'm quite happy to be interrupted with any important points, but I just wanted maybe to get the first 5 minutes out of the way to let you know how things got to where they are now. As with many children as well, he had problems inside his family, and his parents divorced when he was about 9 years old. He decided to go and live with his father, him and his brother. He ended up regretting that because he didn't think that his father was a very good person, but his father was primarily an engineer, and that's probably where he got his engineering talents from. Subsequently, he started to learn coding at age 10. And by age 12, he became so good at it that he actually coded a game that he then sold onto a magazine, a technology magazine, and by which he started his entrepreneurial journey at age 12 for $500. And then thinking that America is the spirit of human exploration distilled, that's how he decided to go to the States. But initially he went through to Canada through his mother, who's of Canadian origin. And he started his course in Pennsylvania University in a double major in physics and economics in 1992. By 1997, he had finished that course and he graduated and then moved on to California, where he started his first company, Zip2. And that's basically a precursor of Google Maps Calendly, with his brother and one of their friends. They then sold this company to Compaq, and from which he got his first $22 million. And that was around about 1999. And from then on, he went into X.com, which is an online bank company, essentially, which joined with Conformity in 2001 to make PayPal. And that was sold onto eBay for more than $1 billion. And that's where he got his money to start Tesla. And obviously, we all know Tesla is an electric car company, and recently Solar City, which is a solar energy company, joined Tesla, and they've basically become a power company, so electricity company and electric car company, and they are basically changing the world together. And that's how he then came on to be the richest person in the world because of his Tesla shares. So he joined Tesla in 2004. He was also very interested in space exploration, and colonizing Mars. And out of that, he established SpaceX. And because he couldn't get anybody other than him to begin with to work on rockets, he also became the chief technical officer as well, and the chief designer. And essentially, he was the main person in terms of working on designs. And it's important to note that in 2008, both Tesla and SpaceX came very nearly to bankruptcy because they've tried 3 initial launches, which were a failure, and his 4th launch succeeded. And Tesla was given a loan by the Barack Obama administration at the time. On the last day of the year, it could be given. It was given just on the 24th of December, just before Christmas Day. And both companies were saved from bankruptcy, essentially by a miracle, pretty much. And if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have heard about those 2 companies and the success that they've had in the last few years. Then he moved on to do other things, and I just wanted to show you. Basically, these are the areas where Elon Musk is involved now. He's got since starting with SpaceX, he's got involved in the Boring Company, which works on tunnels. OpenAI, he believes that artificial intelligence has the potential to be very dangerous and even cause the end of the human race as we know it. And that's why he started this not-for-profit organization to try and produce or make friendly artificial intelligence. And when he understood that that may not be possible, he established Neuralink, which aims to join artificial and human intelligence in a way that would prevent artificial intelligence running away with uncontrollably. And he basically, along the road to that, he hopes to invent devices which would help, for example, people who have had strokes and people with disabilities, so that they can walk again and talk again through interacting directly with the brain and the use of neurorehabilitation and exoskeletons, things like that. So from this, we see that having a strong interest in science as a child and working on things like physics and mathematics and economics at university are very good groundings for people who want to become inventors in the future. And I think one essential skill is also computer coding and robotics, and that's why I'm very proud of the work of my wife at the moment, because I think she's setting up a lot of children to become future inventors. She works with people between the ages of 9 and 12, and that is the time, I think, to start looking into these fields. That's really my presentation of him, and I just wanted to check if anybody had any questions or any other comments.
People like Elon Musk always fascinate me. He's rich, he's famous, okay? But as a teacher, I have met lots of students like him who did not become rich and famous.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, why? Is it just luck? Or
yeah, that's a very important point. I think Elon Musk is rich and famous without intending to be. And that's very important, because I think if you work in something that you are passionate about and you go about it the right way, you achieve your aim of doing what you want, but you also can potentially achieve a lot of other aims. Like, for example, like we said, for about a week in January, Elon Musk was the richest person in the world. And now anything that he's interested in, he just needs to go on Twitter and type 3 words about it. And then the momentum of the world will just push that thing up. Like, for example, there's been a lot of talk about WhatsApp not being very secure now because Facebook has changed its privacy policy. recently, and that Signal, for example, which is another app, is more secure. And it just took Elon tweeting about Signal that people should probably move to it to break the application. It stopped working because of the number of people wanting to sign up to it, and apparently its share price also went, I don't know how many times, 100% above because of that. So he got to the stage where anything that he is interested in or anything that he wanted to promote, he just needs to, his fan base is so huge that he can do a lot by just asking people to help something, or because I mean, I think a big part of the reason why Elon Musk is so famous and has such a following is because he represents what a lot of people would want to be in the future. Like, for example, I used to walk around the park in front of my house when I was a child, thinking about I want to work in NASA and I want to go to space and that kind of thing. And I think so Elon Musk in a way is what I would have wanted to become given the chance. And I think not just that, but I think he will actually give us the chance, and I think give a lot of humanity the chance to go to space, possibly even visit the moon, and eventually have a colony on Mars. And I will maybe take another question before I point out something very important, in my opinion.
No,
So
why don't you go ahead?
Yeah.
I have plenty of
Yeah,
questions.
no problem. So if you look at this, you find that that Elon Musk is actually building the Martian economy on Earth before we actually even get there. So, for example, SpaceX is obviously the means by which we will be planning to have more bases on the moon to begin with, because it's much easier to get things from the moon in terms of gravity is a lot less there, so you can have a lot more cargo into rockets from the moon to Mars rather than directly from Earth to Mars. And then the other thing is that SpaceX, as part of it, has a company, a new company called Starlink, which is basically eventually some 40,000 satellites will be orbiting the planet Earth, providing high-speed Wi-Fi to everywhere on the planet, including the middle of the Atlantic Sea, the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And I think I understand that it's recently started operating in the UK, where rural areas have very little internet coverage, like 0.5 Bpbs, where people just can't use the internet for anything. And then this household got the device from Starlink, and within about half an hour, the grandfather was having Zoom games with his children, things that he would never have been able to do if it wasn't for Starlink starting to operate in the UK. Tesla will obviously be making electric cars, and obviously there are no fossil fuels on Mars. So if you wanted to move around, you have to use electric cars. And the other thing is that for you to be able to generate any energy on Mars, you need to begin with have solar panels. And through its subsidiary Solar City, which is now part of Tesla, they'll be able to do that. And then it is expected that on the surface of Mars, solar radiation will be very damaging and may even be fatal to people. So you can't really be on the surface for a long time. And that's why the Boring Company will be used to produce tunnels under the ground and also habitats there. And then Hyperloop is meant to be a transport system which is very fast, using basically tunnels that have no air resistance. And it will mainly have electric cars or electric pods in them. So again, that will be the mode of transport on Mars when we get there. And then OpenAI, like we say, is basically producing intelligent systems, and it may be asked as to how best to colonize in terms of size of colony, number of people, kind of resources required. And Neuralink is probably the most important out of them. So because it can be dangerous for people to be on the surface for long periods, you can have people somewhere down, below ground in habitats, but connected to a robot on the surface, building houses, making projects, or doing whatever is required for the colony. So if you can see the combination of all of those companies, you find that he's basically building what is required for Mars on planet Earth. And when SpaceX is ready to start hauling cargo to Mars. That will be, you know, the combination of all of those companies will be working together to try and give humans the best chance of going to Mars, you know, of going to Mars and making a sustainable colony there, because yeah, that's his basically life's aim.
You've given us a great overview of all his many successes, and there are a lot of them. Can you talk about his failures, the things that didn't work?
Yeah. Well, you know, somebody mentioned earlier in the last talk about how you learn from failures more than you learn from successes. And the great thing about him was that I don't think he's had any failure that that kind of was disastrous or that he didn't get over. But what there are two things in his philosophy that are very important, I think. The first thing is that he is prepared for failure from the word go. So he was saying, you know, for basically for Tesla and for SpaceX, he was the saying that at the start, the chance of success of either companies was about 10%. He really did not think when he started SpaceX or Tesla or contributed to Tesla, because he's not really a founder, but he's joined very soon after the founding of Tesla, that those ventures may not work, and he was prepared for that. But he always says that if something is important enough, you have to try even if you weren't sure of success. And he invested pretty much all of his wealth that he generated from the sale of PayPal in those three companies. But he obviously was a very dedicated person. And one thing that he learned from the Zip2 days was that when he started off, he was very poor. They had only one computer, and they had only their office. So the website would be up all day, and he would be coding all night. And that would go on for all the time, basically. And he used to sleep on the ground in his office, on the floor. And this is something that he continues to do now in his various factories all around the world. He sleeps on the floor. He spends a lot of time in the factory. He follows his businesses very closely. And that's how he ensures success, or maximizes the chances of success, you know, despite potentially having or at times having very hard circumstances, as he did, for example, during the ramp up of Model 3 in Tesla, where he was saying, you know, he called it production hell, but he managed to get out of the other end and go on to become the richest person in the world, the second richest.
I think one of the things, and I obviously don't know him personally, but one of the things that I have been struck by his personality is he doesn't recognize a failure. He doesn't understand the word failure. And let me just explain, give you some examples. In the beginning, SpaceX had a number of launches, and they were explosions and landings crashed. And I remember him giving press conferences saying, yes, the rocket blew up, but we know why it blew up. And so that was a success. We learned from that. He had a demonstration of a truck, and he had shatterproof glass on the truck, and he threw something at the truck, and the glass broke.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, this is great. We can learn from this. We know why the shatterproof glass broke. And any normal person would have taken this as an incredible embarrassment. Here he was in front of all the media, and the glass broke. And just about a week ago, one of his rockets was landing, and it fell over and blew up or something. And once again, he said it was a success because we know why it blew up. And
yes, so I mean, I can say something about that. So the Cybertruck incident, some people say that it was actually engineered that way because it generated so much more interest than if the glass was not broken, and he had a huge number of orders for it afterwards. In terms of it's called serial number 8 that blew up on landing. So basically, he was saying that so SpaceX has a policy of fail fast and fail frequently. So meaning that, you know, you fail a lot to begin with so that you learn quickly and then you succeed soon afterwards. So specifically about the last rocket they tried, and this is basically the Starship, which is the prototype rocket for going to Mars and potentially Earth-to-Earth transport in the future as well. What happened was that he basically gave it about a 30% chance of success that the rocket will get to maximum height and then be able to land in one piece. So from that, they basically took or learned all the data they required, and they did try their best to land the rocket in one piece, but it basically fell a bit too forcefully and ended up blowing up. But it was essentially more than 99% of success because they've got all the data they required from all of the journey until the rocket blew up. And they've already got SN9, which is serial number 9, on the launch pad now to be launched anytime the next week. And they're planning to have serial number 10 as well, standing next to it. And there may potentially be a synchronized launch of both of them, which would be quite something to watch if it happened.
What kind of a manager is he? Okay, so he's brilliant and wonderful. Does he tolerate normal people?
Yeah, so he's, I think there are obviously multiple angles to this question. It depends on his state of mind. So for example, Tesla employees say that if there was a successful SpaceX launch, then that's the time when they get to ask him for like big ticket prices, items to buy, because they know he's in a good mood and he'll say yes to almost anything. So yeah, I think his real skill is involved in knowing who to choose to delegate things to. He's very skilled at choosing the right people to give work to, because he's obviously, the chief executive is of two very cutting edge companies, and he's also has got his fingers in a few other businesses, so he can't do everything by himself. But what he said is if somebody has a problem, he'd rather know about it sooner rather than later. And if somebody fails at anything, obviously through, through maybe being not as good as they could be or being lazy or anything, he had especially in the bad days when it was difficult to find other people and the money was tight, he had the habit of firing them, doing their job, and then coming back to being his CEO again. So he can be a very difficult boss, but I think it's only through being like that that you can achieve the kind of success that he has achieved.
I was told a story, don't know if it's true, but I was told that SpaceX and Tesla employees don't want to accidentally be in an elevator with him. So if you're in an elevator and all of a sudden he shows up, because when he has you in the elevator, he'll ask you a really complicated question, and if you don't answer it, he fires you.
Yeah, it wasn't like that. It's more that you don't want to pass in front of his office when he's angry, because he might just ask you a question and you may not know it, and then he would fire you, potentially. I don't know if I've kind of gone over my time a little bit. I just want to say at the end that obviously, as you probably know by now, Syria is quite a bit of a tragedy now at the moment, and there are a lot of Syrian children who have, for one reason or another, missed on the chance for an education in quite a few places. But my specific interest is really in kind of northern Syria, southern Turkey, where under the right circumstances, they may have very good life chances if looked after well. And if I ever had the chance to speak to Elon Musk or to, do something with him, that would probably be the first thing that I'd be interested in him doing. Things like tablets or things to help them, to help their education. And Tesla, by virtue of it being a technology company, is very good at applications. Like, for example, the whole of the car is run through an application on the mobile. And I would think that things like, educational applications, especially about physics, can be something that can be very good at, especially they're called Tesla. And Tesla is obviously a very intelligent person. His name is the unit used for electromagnetism. If they could do something along that line, that would be amazing. And it may, in the right way, it could be a very good educational tool for a lot of children who have been deprived of an education so far.
Good, very good, very good, very good, very good. So I have a question, and I don't mean to be rude, but are you going to encourage your children to follow his path?
So my son has watched most of the launches that I've watched myself. And he already wants to become an astronaut, even though he's not quite 4 years old yet. And obviously, when he's old enough, his mom is going to teach him coding as well. So that's coding and rockets, which are the two things that Elon Musk started with. So hopefully, yes.
Well, I'm sure your son will have a better home life than Elon had. I hope.
Yeah.
hopefully that won't be the key to success, to have a bad home
Hopefully.
life. Hopefully. Very good. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. This was very, very interesting. Once again, it's always good to see somebody who is doing things and being a little bit different and an entrepreneur and going off and doing things. I was reading an article, and it was talking about the fact that we often talk about people who are experts, and we say, oh, they're an expert, they know all this stuff. And the response was, an expert is somebody who knows about the past. Somebody who knows about the future is an entrepreneur. And that's really what Elon Musk is. He's somebody who envisions the future, and he's an entrepreneur and makes it happen. So it's very, very interesting. Excellent. Thank you very, very much. This was very interesting. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
And if you ever get to meet him, tell him I said hello.
Same here.